My name is Jennifer Richardson, and 17 days ago, I gave birth to the most beautiful baby girl in the world. 17 days ago, I became a mother of two. 17 days ago, my life was perfect. But when I walked through my front door, after 2 weeks at the postpartum recovery center, I knew immediately that something was terribly, terribly wrong. Everything looked the same. The living room furniture was exactly where I'd left it. My son's toys were neatly organized in their bins. I'm particular about organization, maybe too particular. The kitchen was clean. The photos on the wall were straight. But there was one thing that was drastically different, and it made my stomach drop. My husband Tom looked like he'd aged 10 years. "Hey, honey," he said, coming to help me with the baby carrier. "Welcome home." His voice was flat. His eyes wouldn't meet mine. And when he hugged me, I could feel how much weight he'd lost. His shirt hung loose on his frame, and his face looked gaunt, almost hollow. "Tom, are you okay?" I asked, pulling back to look at him. "You look exhausted. Have you been eating?" "I'm fine," he said quickly. Too quickly. "Just tired. You know how it is with a 3-year-old. He's been asking for you constantly." But it wasn't just tiredness. I could see it in the way he moved, the way he kept glancing toward the bedroom, the way his hands shook slightly when he took the diaper bag from me. Something had happened while I was gone. I tried to push the feeling away. I told myself I was being paranoid, that the hormones from childbirth were making me emotional and suspicious. Tom had probably just been stressed managing everything alone. That was understandable, right? But that night, after we put our son to bed and the baby was sleeping in her bassinet, I went into our bathroom to finally take a proper shower. And that's when I found it. The drain in the sink was completely clogged. I bent down to look closer, and my heart started pounding. There, blocking the entire drain, was a massive clump of long black hair. My hair is blonde, short blonde, cut into a practical bob that I could easily manage with 2 kids. And just before I'd gone to the postpartum center, I'd had a cleaning service come in and deep clean the entire house. I wanted to come home to a fresh, clean space. That included having all the drains professionally cleared. This hair hadn't been there 2 weeks ago, and it definitely wasn't mine. "Tom," I called out, my voice shaking. "Can you come here?" He appeared in the doorway, and I watched his face carefully as I pointed to the drain. "What is this?" His expression flickered just for a second before he composed himself. "What do you mean? This hair in the drain, it's not mine." "Oh." He ran his hand through his hair, a nervous gesture I'd seen 1,000 times in our 8 years of marriage. "That's probably Amanda's. My sister stopped by a few times to bring food from Mom. I think she mentioned taking a shower once or twice. It was really hot that week." Amanda. His sister? That made sense, didn't it? Amanda had long dark hair, and it had been unusually warm for October. But something felt off. Amanda lived 10 minutes away in her own house with 3 bathrooms. Why would she shower here? Once? Maybe if she'd been gardening and got dirty and wanted to clean up before the drive home. But multiple times? How many times did she shower here? I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. "I don't know. Once or twice?" Tom shrugged. "Maybe 3 times. I wasn't really paying attention. Once or twice. Maybe 3 times." His story was already changing. "And she didn't clean up after herself?" I pressed. "Amanda's always been meticulous about things like that." "I guess she was in a hurry," Tom said, moving toward the door. "I'll clean it out in the morning. You should get some rest." But I couldn't rest. I lay in bed that night, listening to Tom's breathing beside me. and the baby's soft snuffles from the bassinet, and I knew. I knew he was lying to me. I just didn't know what he was lying about. Before I continue with my story, I want to ask you a favor. If you're finding this account compelling, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel and hit the like button. It means more than you know, and it helps others find these important stories. Thank you. The next morning, I started noticing other things, small things that individually might mean nothing, but together painted a picture I didn't want to see. Our wedding photo on the dresser had been turned face down. When I asked Tom about it, he said our son must have knocked it over while playing. But our son had been sleeping in his own room while I was gone, and the photo was on Tom's side of the dresser, well out of reach. Tom had lost at least 15 pounds in 2 weeks. When I mentioned it again, he got defensive. I told you I was too busy to eat properly. Between work and taking care of a toddler, I just forgot to make real meals. But Tom was a high school track coach. He'd always been disciplined about nutrition and exercise. Forgetting to eat wasn't like him. And there was something else. Tom was jumpy, constantly checking his phone, startling at every sound. When I asked about his day at work, he gave vague answers. When I asked about the track team, he changed the subject. On the third day home, I noticed that some of my clothes had been moved in our closet. Not obviously, just slightly rearranged, like someone had been looking through them. And there was a faint scent in our bedroom that I didn't recognize. Not perfume exactly, but something floral and unfamiliar. That's when I decided to check the building's security cameras. We lived in a condo, with hallway cameras that recorded everyone who came and went. If Amanda had really been here multiple times, the footage would show it. I went down to the management office with the baby strapped to my chest. "Hi," I said to the security guard on duty. "I'm Jennifer Richardson from Unit 1203. I lost my wallet sometime in the past 2 weeks, and I was wondering if I could check the hallway camera footage to see if anyone found it and returned it to my door." The guard looked sympathetic. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Richardson, but your husband already checked those tapes. About 2 days ago. He said he found what he needed and asked us to delete the footage." My blood ran cold. "Delete it?" "Yeah. He said he didn't want personal footage of your family sitting on our servers. He seemed pretty concerned about privacy." "I see. Thank you." I walked back to my condo in a daze. Tom had deleted the security footage. Why would he do that if Amanda had just stopped by to drop off food? Why would he need to hide that? That night, I confronted him. "Tom, I went to check the security footage. The guard said you already looked at it and had it deleted." He froze, a forkful of pasta halfway to his mouth. "Oh, yeah. I was looking for something." "Looking for what?" I thought I saw someone suspicious in the hallway one night. I wanted to check if anything had been stolen. But it was nothing." Another lie. I could see it in the way he wouldn't meet my eyes, in the way his hand gripped his fork too tightly. "Tom, what happened while I was gone?" My voice was quiet but firm. "And don't tell me nothing. I'm not stupid. You look like you've been through hell. Our wedding photo was turned down. There's strange hair in our bathroom. You deleted security footage. Something happened, and I need you to tell me what it was." "Nothing happened," he said, standing up abruptly. "You're being paranoid. This is probably postpartum hormones or something. You should talk to your doctor." Postpartum hormones. He was actually trying to gaslight me, trying to make me think I was imagining things. That's when I knew I needed help. Professional help. The next morning, while Tom was at work, I looked up private investigators in our area. I found one with excellent reviews named Sarah Morrison. a detective who specialized in marital investigations. When I called her office, I was so nervous I could barely speak. Ms. Morrison, my name is Jennifer Richardson, and I think something happened in my house while I was away. Something my husband is hiding from me. Can you help? Tell me everything, she said kindly. So I did. I told her about the hair, the deleted footage, Tom's weight loss, his nervous behavior. I told her about my gut feeling that something was deeply wrong. I can help you, she said after I finished. But Mrs. Richardson, I need to warn you sometimes when we investigate these situations, we uncover truths that are difficult to hear. Are you prepared for that? I looked at my sleeping daughter in her bouncer, at my son, playing with his trucks on the living room floor, and I thought about the life I thought I had versus the life I might actually have. Yes, I said, I need to know the truth, whatever it is. That's how my investigation began. What I thought would be a simple case of infidelity, my husband having an affair while I was recovering from childbirth, turned out to be something far more complex and disturbing, a tangled web involving not just Tom, but a student, her mother, false accusations, and secrets that would ultimately destroy multiple families. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you what Detective Morrison discovered and how my search for answers about a clump of hair in my drain led me down a path I never could have imagined. Detective Morrison worked quickly. Within 2 days, she'd already uncovered something that made my blood run cold. She called me on a Wednesday afternoon while I was folding baby clothes. Mrs. Richardson, I need you to sit down. I've discovered something about your husband, and it's complicated. My hands started shaking. Just tell me, is he having an affair? Not exactly. Or at least, that's not the main issue right now. She paused. Your husband has been placed on administrative leave from his job. He's being investigated for sexual harassment of a student. The room seemed to tilt. What? A 17-year-old girl on his track team, Haley Peterson, filed a complaint claiming that he invited her to your house while you were at the postpartum center. She says he made inappropriate advances, touched her inappropriately, and tried to kiss her. I felt like I was going to be sick. That's not possible. Tom would never. He's always been so careful about boundaries with his students. He keeps his office door open during meetings. He never texts students on his personal phone. I know, Detective Morrison interrupted gently, which is why I'm not sure the accusation is legitimate. Men who are predators don't usually take those kinds of precautions. But the school and police are taking it seriously. That's probably why your husband looks so stressed. Why didn't he tell me? I whispered. I'm his wife. I just had our baby. Why wouldn't he tell me something this serious? Maybe he was trying to protect you from stress. Or, she hesitated. Or what? Or there's more to the story. Mrs. Richardson, I'm going to keep investigating. In the meantime, don't confront your husband yet. If there's more going on here, I need time to uncover it. I agreed, but the next few days were torture. Every time I looked at Tom, I wondered, was he a predator? Had my husband, the man I'd loved and trusted for 8 years, the father of my children, sexually harassed a teenage girl? But something didn't feel right about it. I knew Tom. I knew his character. Yes, he could be distant sometimes, too focused on his work, but inappropriate with students? That didn't match the man I'd married. Detective Morrison called again 3 days later. I've been interviewing people at the school, Tom's track team members, other coaches, parents, and I've discovered something interesting. What? There's been a rumor circulating for months about your husband having a relationship with someone. But it's not Haley Peterson. My heart sank. Then who? Haley's mother. Diane Peterson. I had to sit down. Diane Peterson. I knew who she was. She'd been heavily involved in the track team's parent organization. She'd organized fundraisers, chaperoned trips, attended every meet. She was divorced, attractive, always perfectly put together. And apparently, she'd been sleeping with my husband. Are you sure? I asked, even though part of me already knew it was true. It explained everything: the hair in the drain, the deleted security footage, Tom's gaunt appearance, and guilty behavior. One of the students saw them together at a coffee shop holding hands, Detective Morrison continued. Another saw them kissing in your husband's car after practice. And according to several team members, Haley walked in on them and has been devastated ever since. So the sexual harassment accusation is false. Haley's trying to destroy your husband because he's having an affair with her mother. She's 17, heartbroken, angry. She probably had a crush on him herself. A lot of the students did, apparently. And then she finds out he's with her own mother. So she decided to ruin him the only way she knew how. I started laughing, not because anything was funny, but because the alternative was screaming. So my husband isn't a sexual predator. He just cheated on me with a student's mother while I was recovering from giving birth to his child. And now a teenage girl is so traumatized by his affair with her mother that she's filing false police reports. I'm sorry, Mrs. Richardson. Don't be sorry. Just find me proof. I need proof before I confront him. Detective Morrison did find proof. Over the next week, she collected evidence that painted a damning picture. Text messages between Tom and Diane that she'd obtained from one of Haley's friends. Photos of them together at restaurants in the next town over. Security footage from Diane's building showing Tom entering and leaving multiple times. And most damning of all, security footage from a convenience store near our condo that Detective Morrison had managed to obtain. It showed Diane entering our building multiple times during the 2 weeks I was gone, carrying overnight bags, staying for hours, sometimes staying overnight. She'd been living in my house, sleeping in my bed, playing house with my husband while I was bonding with our newborn daughter. When Detective Morrison showed me all the evidence, I felt strangely calm. Maybe I'd already known deep down. Maybe I'd been preparing myself for this since the moment I found that hair in the drain. What do you want to do? Detective Morrison asked. I want to talk to Haley Peterson first, I said. Before I confront Tom, I need to understand why a 17-year-old girl would file a false report like that. And I need to hear her tell me the truth about what really happened. That's how I ended up sitting in Detective Morrison's office, across from a scared, crying teenager who'd tried to destroy my husband's career because she couldn't handle the pain of discovering her mother's affair. Mrs. Richardson, I'm so sorry, Haley sobbed. I know what I did was wrong. I saw them together and I couldn't believe it. Coach Richardson was someone I looked up to. I trusted him. And then I found out he was with my mom, lying to you, betraying everyone. I wanted to hurt him the way he hurt you, by making a false accusation that could have sent him to prison, I said quietly, by lying about sexual assault, which makes it harder for real victims to be believed. I know. At first I just wanted to scare him, to make him and my mom break up. But then it got so big, and everyone believed me, and I didn't know how to take it back without admitting I lied. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I looked at this girl because that's what she was. Really, just a girl. And I felt an unexpected surge of sympathy. Yes, what she'd done was terrible, but she was also a victim in this situation. A child who'd had to watch her mother betray her trust and make a mockery of their relationship. Does your mother know the accusation is false? I asked. Haley shook her head. She believes me. She actually believes I was harassed. And I can't tell her the truth without admitting I know about her and Coach Richardson. Well, she's going to find out soon, I said, because I'm confronting my husband tonight. And when I do, everyone is going to learn the truth about his affair with your mother. Haley looked panicked. What's going to happen to me? Will I go to jail? I don't know, I answered honestly. But the truth is coming out either way. You might want to tell your mother yourself before she hears it from someone else. That evening, I asked Detective Morrison to come home with me. I wanted a witness when I confronted Tom. I wanted someone there to make sure he couldn't lie his way out of this or convince me I was imagining things. Tom was in the kitchen making dinner when we arrived. He looked up, saw Detective Morrison with me, and I watched all the color drain from his face. Jen, what's going on? Who is this? This is Detective Sarah Morrison. I hired her to investigate what happened while I was at the postpartum center. I kept my voice steady, even though my hands were shaking. I know about Diane Peterson, Tom. I know about the affair. I know she stayed here, in our home, in our bed, while I was recovering from childbirth. Tom's face crumpled. He looked at our son, who was watching a cartoon in the living room, then back at me. Can we talk about this privately? No. Detective Morrison is staying. She's a witness to whatever you're about to tell me. So start talking. How long have you been sleeping with Diane Peterson? 3 months, he whispered. It started in July. We were chaperoning an overnight meet together, and we just connected. Connected, I repeated flatly. Is that what you call it when you cheat on your 7 months pregnant wife? I know how it sounds. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Did you love her? He was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. Maybe I thought I did. She was easy to be around. She didn't need anything from me. With you being pregnant, and the new baby coming, and everything at work, she was an escape. Those words cut deeper than anything else. An escape. From me. From our family. From our life together. And when I went to the postpartum center, I asked, my voice dangerously calm, what happened then? Tom couldn't meet my eyes. She stayed here. A few times. More than a few times. How many times, Tom? How many nights did you have her in our bed while I was bonding with our daughter? I don't know exactly. Maybe 7 or 8 nights. 8 nights. More than half the time I was gone. While I was learning to breastfeed, dealing with postpartum pain, missing my family, he was playing house with another woman. And what about Haley's accusation? I continued. Did you know it was false? I suspected, he admitted. The details didn't match reality, but I couldn't prove it was false without revealing the affair with her mother. So you were just going to let everyone think you might be a sexual predator? You were going to let that investigation continue. Let people wonder if you'd assaulted a teenage girl, rather than admit you were sleeping with her mother. I was trying to protect Diane. And Haley. And honestly, his voice dropped, I was trying to protect myself. I thought maybe it would blow over quietly. I stared at the man I'd married, the man I'd built a life with, the man I'd had 2 children with, and I realized I didn't know him at all. Get out, I said quietly. Jen, please. Get out of this house. Tonight. Pack a bag and leave. We'll figure out custody arrangements later. But I don't want you here. Not tonight. Maybe not ever again. Tom looked like he wanted to argue, but Detective Morrison stepped forward. I think you should go, Mr. Richardson. Give your wife some space. I watched him pack a bag, moving through our bedroom like a ghost. When he left, our son asked where Daddy was going, and I had to lie and say he had to work late. How do you explain to a 3-year-old that his father is a liar and a cheater? After Tom left, Detective Morrison stayed with me for a while. Are you going to be okay? She asked. Eventually, I said. Right now I'm just numb. But I have my kids, and I have the truth. That's more than some people get. What are you going to do about Diane Peterson? I thought about that for a moment. Nothing. She's not my problem anymore. She can deal with the consequences of her own choices. I have enough to handle with my own life falling apart. But it turned out Diane Peterson wasn't quite finished making my life difficult. The worst was still to come. After Tom moved out, I thought the worst was over. I thought I could start the process of healing, of rebuilding my life as a single mother. I filed for divorce. I hired a good lawyer. I focused on my children and tried not to think about the fact that my husband had betrayed me during one of the most vulnerable times of my life. But 3 weeks after Tom left, I started getting messages. The first one came through Facebook Messenger from an account I didn't recognize. You destroyed my life. I hope you're happy. I deleted it, thinking it was spam or a wrong number. But the next day, there was another one. Tom and I were in love. We were going to be together. You couldn't handle that your marriage was over, so you ruined everything. That's when I realized they were from Diane Peterson. Over the next few days, the messages escalated. She created multiple fake social media accounts to contact me. Some of the messages were angry, accusing me of hiring a detective to spy on her, of destroying her relationship with her daughter, of forcing her to move to another town. Some of the messages were pleading, begging me to tell Tom to call her, saying they belonged together. And some of the messages were threatening. You think you've won? You haven't. I'll make sure you regret this. I documented everything and called Detective Morrison. She's harassing me. Multiple accounts, dozens of messages. What should I do? Save everything and file a police report, Detective Morrison advised. This is stalking and harassment. The police need to know. I filed the report, but the officer I spoke with wasn't particularly helpful. Unless she makes a direct threat, there's not much we can do. Block the accounts. Don't respond to her. Keep documenting. But blocking didn't help. Diane just created new accounts, and then she escalated beyond just online harassment. One afternoon, I was at the grocery store with both kids when I saw her. She was in the produce section, staring at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. When I tried to walk away, she followed me through the store. We need to talk, she said, catching up to me in the cereal aisle. We have nothing to talk about, I replied, keeping my voice low. My son was in the cart, and I didn't want him to hear this. Please, just listen to me. Tom and I loved each other. We were going to be together, but you had to interfere. You had to hire that detective and ruin everything. I hired a detective to find out why there was strange hair in my bathroom, I said, my anger rising. I didn't ruin your relationship. You ruined it by sleeping with a married man whose wife had just given birth. His marriage was already over. He told me you two were just going through the motions, that he wasn't happy anymore. I laughed bitterly. And you believed him? Of course he told you that. That's what men having affairs always say. But if his marriage was so over, why didn't he tell me about you? Why did he sneak around? Why did he look terrified when I found out? Diane's face twisted with anger. You don't understand what we had. What you had was an affair built on lies and selfishness, I interrupted, and it hurt everyone around you, including your own daughter. Do you even realize what Haley went through? She filed a false police report because she was so traumatized by discovering your relationship with her coach. Your affair damaged your child, Diane. Your own daughter. Haley will understand eventually. When she's older, she'll understand that sometimes adults make complicated choices. No, I cut her off. She won't. She'll remember that her mother chose a man over her, that her mother had an affair with her coach and forced her to lie to protect that affair. That's what she'll remember. Diane reached out like she was going to grab my arm, and I stepped back. Don't touch me. And stop following me. Stop messaging me. Leave me alone, or I will get a restraining order. You can't tell me what to do. Actually, I can. This is harassment. I've documented every message, every encounter. The police have it all. One more incident, and you'll be arrested. I walked away, my hands shaking, my son asking why the lady was so loud. I loaded my groceries as quickly as I could and drove home, checking my rearview mirror the entire way to make sure she wasn't following me. That night, I got a call from my son's preschool. Mrs. Richardson, we wanted to let you know that a woman came by today asking questions about your family. She said she was your son's aunt and wanted to know what days he was enrolled, what times you typically dropped him off and picked him up. My blood went cold. What did she look like? Mid-40s, dark hair, very well dressed. She seemed normal at first, but then she started asking odd questions about your mental health. She said she was concerned that you were unstable and wanted to make sure your son was safe. That woman is not related to me, I said firmly. Her name is Diane Peterson. She's been harassing me. Please don't give her any information about my family and call the police if she comes back. We already did call them when she wouldn't leave. She finally left when we threatened to call security. After I hung up, I sat on my couch and cried. This woman was now involving my children in her obsessive harassment. She was showing up at my son's school, trying to paint me as unstable to his teachers. This had to stop. I called Detective Morrison again. She's escalating. She showed up at my son's preschool. I'm scared. What if she does something crazy? I'll handle it, Detective Morrison said. Give me a day. I don't know exactly what Detective Morrison said to Diane Peterson when she confronted her, but it worked. The messages stopped. The drive-bys stopped. Diane finally left me alone. Later, Detective Morrison told me she'd shown Diane documentation of every harassing message and incident, and had threatened to take it directly to the district attorney if Diane contacted me even one more time. She broke down, Detective Morrison told me. Said she'd lost everything: her relationship with Tom, her relationship with her daughter, her home, her reputation. But she finally understood that continuing to harass you would only make things worse. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I just felt exhausted. This whole situation, Tom's affair, Haley's false accusation, Diane's harassment, had drained me completely. I was trying to care for a newborn and a toddler, while processing the end of my marriage and dealing with a woman who blamed me for the consequences of her own choices. But at least now it was over, or so I thought. 2 weeks later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered, Mrs. Richardson, this is Haley Peterson. My first instinct was to hang up, but something in her voice stopped me. She sounded different, older, somehow. More serious. What do you want, Haley? I wanted to apologize and to tell you something important. Something about my mom and your husband that I didn't tell anyone before. I don't want to hear any more about your mother's affair with my ex-husband, I said tiredly. I've heard enough. I just want to move on with my life. It's not about the affair, Haley insisted. It's about something else. Something that might matter for your divorce. Can we please meet, just for a few minutes? Something in her tone made me agree. We met at a coffee shop the next day. I brought the baby with me, strapped to my chest in her carrier. Haley looked different from the last time I'd seen her. More mature, less sure of herself. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, sitting down across from me. "I know you have no reason to help me or even listen to me after what I did. So why am I here?" I asked bluntly. "Because there's something about my mom's affair with your husband that nobody knows. Something I found out right before everything exploded." She took a deep breath. "My mom was planning to get pregnant." I stared at her. "What?" "I found her birth control pills in the trash." She'd stopped taking them, but hadn't told Coach Richardson. She told me before she knew I knew about the affair that she was hoping to have another baby. I didn't think much of it at the time. I thought maybe she'd met someone and was planning for the future. But she hadn't met someone new, I said slowly. She was trying to trap my husband. I think so. And there's more. I heard her on the phone with Coach Richardson one night, a few weeks before you came home from the postpartum center. She told him she thought she might be pregnant. She said they should tell you together, that you deserved to know the truth. My hands started shaking. "Is she pregnant?" "I don't know." After everything fell apart, she wouldn't talk to me about anything. "But Mrs. Richardson, if she is, I thought you should know. For your divorce case." I thanked Haley and left the coffee shop in a daze. The possibility that Diane might be pregnant with Tom's child was almost too much to process. Everything I'd been through, the betrayal, the harassment, the pain of rebuilding my life, might be just the beginning. That evening, I called my divorce lawyer and told her what Haley had said. "We need to find out if Diane Peterson is pregnant. If she is, it changes everything about custody, finances, all of it." My lawyer agreed to have her investigator look into it. 2 weeks later, I got my answer. Diane Peterson was not pregnant. According to medical records her lawyer had been forced to provide, she'd had a miscarriage about a month after Tom moved out. She'd been pregnant just barely, but had lost the baby early on. When my lawyer told me this news, I felt a complicated mixture of relief and sadness. Relief that I wouldn't have to deal with Tom having a child with his mistress, but sadness for the loss of life, even a life that would have complicated mine immensely. I also felt angry. If Diane had been trying to get pregnant deliberately, that was reproductive coercion. That was manipulation of the worst kind. It confirmed what I'd suspected all along. She wasn't really in love with Tom. She was trying to trap him, to force him to leave me. But it didn't matter anymore. The affair was over. Diane had moved away. Tom was living in an apartment across town, seeing our kids on weekends, and I was slowly, painfully rebuilding my life. The divorce was finalized 6 months after I found that hair in the drain. I got the house, primary custody of the kids, and a fair division of assets. Tom didn't fight me on any of it. Maybe he knew he deserved to lose everything. Or maybe he was just tired of fighting. The last time I saw him was at the courthouse when we signed the final papers. He looked like a shell of the man I'd married, thin, gray-faced, defeated. "I'm sorry," he said to me in the hallway after the hearing. "I know that doesn't mean anything now, but I am. I'm sorry for all of it." "I know you are," I replied. "But sorry doesn't fix what you broke. Sorry doesn't give me back the trust you destroyed. Sorry doesn't change the fact that you chose to betray me during one of the most vulnerable times of my life. I know. I wanted you to know that I do regret it. Every day." I looked at him, this man I'd loved, this man who'd given me 2 beautiful children, this man who'd also broken my heart in the worst way possible, and I felt nothing. Not anger, not love, not even pity. Just a blank emptiness where my feelings for him used to be. "Goodbye, Tom," I said. and I walked away. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I finally felt like I could breathe again. My daughter was sleeping through the night. My son had adjusted to the new custody arrangement, and I was starting to remember who I was before I became Tom's wife. I'd started therapy, which helped me process not just the betrayal, but also my own role in how our marriage had deteriorated. I wasn't responsible for Tom's choice to cheat, that was entirely on him, but I could acknowledge the ways our relationship had become strained over the years. We'd both been so focused on careers and kids that we'd stopped nurturing our connection. We'd stopped going on dates, stopped having meaningful conversations, stopped prioritizing each other. That didn't excuse infidelity, but it did help me understand how we'd reached that point. I also started rebuilding my social life. During my marriage, I'd let many friendships fade away. Now I reconnected with old friends, made new ones through mommy groups and my son's preschool. I rediscovered hobbies I'd abandoned: reading, painting, hiking, and slowly I started to feel like myself again. One Tuesday afternoon, I was at the park with both kids when I ran into someone I never expected to see again: Haley Peterson. She was sitting on a bench by herself, looking at her phone. When she saw me, she looked startled, then stood up. "Mrs. Richardson, I'm sorry, Miss Richardson now, I guess. I didn't know you came to this park. I can leave." "It's okay," I said, surprising myself. "You can stay. It's a public park." She sat back down, looking uncomfortable. I settled onto the other end of the bench, while my son played on the swings and my daughter dozed in the stroller. "How are you?" I asked, not sure why I was making conversation but feeling like I should. "I'm okay. Better than I was?" She paused. I moved back in with my dad. He has full custody now. Mom and we're not really talking. She's in therapy, but I'm not ready yet. "That's understandable. I'm in therapy too," Haley continued, "dealing with everything. The false report, the guilt, watching my family fall apart. My therapist says it'll take time." We sat in silence for a moment, watching my son pump his legs on the swing, both of us connected by the mess that Tom and Diane had created. "Can I ask you something?" Haley said suddenly. "How do you do it? How do you just move on after something like this?" I thought about that question. Honestly, some days I don't. Some days I'm still angry. Some days I cry after the kids go to bed. Some days I wonder if I'll ever trust anyone again. I looked at her, but then I remembered that I have two beautiful children who need me to be strong. And I remember that their father's mistakes don't define me or my future. So I get up every day and I do the work of healing, even when it's hard. "Do you think you'll ever forgive him?" "I don't know," I answered honestly. "Maybe someday. But forgiveness isn't about him. It's about me letting go of the anger, so it doesn't poison my life. That doesn't mean I'll ever forget what he did or trust him again. It just means I won't let what he did continue to hurt me." Haley nodded slowly. "My therapist says something similar, that I need to forgive myself for what I did, even though I can't take it back. Have you?" "Not yet, but I'm trying. I wrote letters to everyone I hurt, Coach Richardson. You, the police, everyone at school. My therapist helped me. I haven't sent them yet, but writing them helped." "What will you do with them?" "I don't know. Maybe someday I'll send them. Or maybe just writing them is enough." She looked at me. "I know I'll never be able to make up for what I did, but I want you to know that I am sorry. Truly, deeply sorry." "I know you are," I said softly. "And Haley, what you did was wrong, very wrong. But you were also a victim in all of this. A child who watched her mother betray her trust and make terrible choices. That doesn't excuse the false report. but it does provide context. Do you think I'm a bad person? Her voice was small, vulnerable. I looked at this young woman because she was still so young, really, barely 18, and I thought about all the mistakes I'd made at her age. Different mistakes, certainly, but mistakes nonetheless. I think you're a person who made a terrible decision when you were hurting and scared and didn't know what else to do, I said. That doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you human. What matters now is what you do moving forward. Whether you learn from this and grow, or whether you let it define you forever. Tears started rolling down Haley's cheeks. Thank you. You have every right to hate me, but you're being kind instead. I don't deserve it. Maybe not. But I'm not doing it for you, I'm doing it for me. Holding on to hatred and anger just hurts me in the end. So I choose to let it go. We sat together for a while longer. Two people whose lives had been shattered by the same affair, slowly finding our way back to solid ground. Eventually, my daughter woke up crying, and it was time to go home. As I was buckling the kids into the car, Haley approached me one more time. Miss Richardson, I know I don't have any right to ask, but could I send you those letters? The ones I wrote as part of my therapy? I'd like you to have them if you're willing to read them. I thought about it for a moment. Yes, you can send them. I can't promise I'll respond, but I will read them. That's more than I deserve. Thank you. As I drove home, I thought about how strange life was. A year ago, I'd been preparing for the birth of my second child, believing my marriage was solid, trusting my husband completely. Now I was divorced, raising two kids alone, and making peace with the teenage girl who'd tried to destroy my ex-husband's career. If someone had told me this would be my life, I never would have believed them. But here I was. And surprisingly, I was okay. More than okay, actually. I was strong. I was healing. And I was building a new life that didn't depend on anyone else's choices but my own. 3 weeks later, Haley's letters arrived. There were 4 of them, one to me, one to Tom, one to the police, and one to her mother. I read mine sitting at my kitchen table after both kids had gone to bed. It was 5 pages long, handwritten, clearly written with great care. She detailed everything her motivations for the false report, her guilt over the consequences, her understanding of how her actions had hurt real victims of sexual assault. She apologized without making excuses, acknowledged the harm she'd caused without minimizing it. At the end, she wrote something that struck me deeply. Miss Richardson, I've spent the past year learning that hurt people hurt people. I was hurting because of my mother's choices, and I responded by hurting others. But I'm also learning that healed people can heal people. Your kindness to me at the park, when you had every reason to hate me, showed me what real strength looks like. It's not about revenge or punishment. It's about choosing grace even when it's hard. Thank you for that lesson. I'll carry it with me for the rest of my life. I put the letter down and realized I was crying. Not tears of sadness or anger, but tears of release. This chapter of my life was finally, truly closing. I never did send a response to Haley, but I kept her letter in a drawer. And sometimes when I had hard days, when the anger and betrayal threatened to overwhelm me, I'd take it out and remember healed people can heal people. A year and a half after I found that hair in my bathroom drain, I received an unexpected phone call. It was from Detective Morrison. Mrs. Richardson, sorry. Ms. Richardson, I hope it's okay that I'm calling. I have some information you should know about. My stomach clenched. What is it? It's about Diane Peterson. She's been arrested. I sat down heavily on my couch. Arrested? For what? Stalking and harassment. Apparently, she's been doing to Tom what she did to you. showing up at his apartment, sending threatening messages, following him. He finally got a restraining order, and when she violated it, the police arrested her. Is Tom okay? He's fine. Shaken up, but fine. But here's the thing: when the police searched her apartment after the arrest, they found something disturbing. She had a whole file on you. Photos of you and the kids at the park, at the grocery store, at your son's school. She'd been following you for months. I felt cold all over. What? But I haven't seen her since you confronted her over a year ago. She was being more careful this time, staying far enough back that you wouldn't notice. But she was documenting your movements, your routines, everything. Why? What was she planning to do? We don't know. Maybe nothing, maybe it was just an obsession. Or maybe she was building up to something. Either way, she's in custody now, and she'll likely face serious charges. I wanted you to know so you could take appropriate precautions. After I hung up with Detective Morrison, I checked all my locks, looked out my windows, and felt a chill run down my spine. This woman had been watching me and my children for months, and I'd had no idea. I called my lawyer immediately. I need to know if this affects Tom's custody arrangement, if his relationship with Diane put our children in danger. Let me look into it, my lawyer said. In the meantime, document everything. If you see her, call the police immediately. Over the next few weeks, more details emerged about Diane's arrest. Apparently, she'd become increasingly unstable after moving away. She'd lost her job, burned through her savings, and become fixated on the idea that Tom and I had conspired to ruin her life. She'd driven back to Chicago multiple times to watch both of us, convinced that we were winning while she'd lost everything. The photos she'd taken of me showed me doing ordinary things, pushing my daughter in a stroller, holding my son's hand at the crosswalk, loading groceries into my car. To me, they were just daily life. To Diane, they apparently represented everything she'd lost. The most disturbing thing? In her apartment, police found journals filled with rambling entries about how unfair the situation was, how Tom and I should have been punished more severely, how Haley had betrayed her. Some entries hinted at wanting to make things right or restore balance, but it was unclear what she meant. Tom called me the day after I learned about the photos. It was the first time we'd spoken directly in months usually. We communicated through a co-parenting app. "Jen, I'm so sorry," he said, his voice tight with emotion. "I had no idea she was watching you. If I'd known she was that unstable, I never would have." "Never would have what?" I interrupted. "Never would have had an affair with her? Because that's the only thing that could have prevented this, Tom. You brought this woman into our lives. You created this situation. I know. I know. God, I've put you and the kids in danger. I'll never forgive myself for that." "The kids are safe," I said firmly. "She's in custody. And Tom, I need you to understand something. Your choices didn't just end our marriage. They created a ripple effect that's still causing damage. Diane's obsession, Haley's trauma, my inability to trust anyone, all of that stems from your affair." "I know." "Do you? Because for a long time, I don't think you really understood the scope of what you'd done. You were so worried about your career, about your reputation, about protecting Diane. But you never seemed to fully grasp how your choices affected everyone else." "You're right," Tom said quietly. "I was selfish. I was a coward. And I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am genuinely, deeply sorry." "I believe you," I said. And surprisingly, I did. Tom sounded different, humbler, more aware, more broken down, and rebuilt into something resembling self-awareness. But Tom, My forgiveness isn't something you can ask for or expect. It's something I give when I'm ready, if I'm ever ready. I understand. After we hung up, I sat in my quiet house. Both kids were at Tom's for the weekend. And I thought about everything that had happened since that October day when I came home from the postpartum center. I discovered my husband's affair, learned about a teenage girl's false accusation, been harassed by my husband's mistress, faced the possibility that she might have been pregnant with his child, survived a contentious divorce, and now discovered that the same woman had been stalking me for months. It was enough trauma for several lifetimes, but I was still here, still standing, still taking care of my children, still building a life that was mine alone. A few weeks later, I received a letter from Diane Peterson. It had been sent from the county jail, where she was being held pending trial. My first instinct was to throw it away without reading it, but curiosity got the better of me. The letter was short. Dear Jennifer, I know you have no reason to read this, let alone believe anything I say, but I need you to know that I'm sorry, not just for the stalking and harassment, but for all of it, the affair, the lies, the pain I caused you and your family. I've been in therapy here at the jail, and I'm finally starting to see how sick I became. The affair wasn't about love, it was about filling a void in my own life. And when that fell apart, instead of dealing with my own issues, I blamed you. I blamed you for hiring a detective. I blamed you for taking Tom back, even though you didn't. You divorced him. I blamed you for having what I thought I wanted. But none of that was your fault. It was all mine. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that I'm getting help, and I'm trying to become a better person. For Haley's sake, if nothing else. She deserves a mother who takes responsibility for her mistakes. I hope you and your children have a good life. You deserve peace after everything I put you through. Diane. I read the letter twice, then put it in the drawer with Haley's letter. Two women whose bad choices had intersected with my life, both trying to make amends in their own way. Did I forgive Diane? Not really. Not yet, anyway. Maybe someday. But I did appreciate that she was finally taking responsibility. That was something. 6 months later, I learned through Tom that Diane had pleaded guilty to stalking and harassment charges. She was sentenced to probation, mandatory therapy, and community service. As part of her plea deal, she was also required to stay at least 500 feet away from me, Tom, and our children at all times. Haley, according to Tom, was doing better. She'd graduated from high school and was attending community college while living with her father. She and Diane had started slowly rebuilding their relationship through family therapy. As for Tom, he'd gotten a job as a personal trainer at a gym. It wasn't prestigious like coaching had been, but it was honest work, and it paid his bills. He was reliable with child support and custody arrangements. He'd started therapy too, working through whatever had led him to make such destructive choices. We weren't friends. I don't think we'd ever be friends, but we'd achieved something like functional co-parenting. The kids were happy and well-adjusted, shuttling between my house and his apartment without too much trauma. And me? 2 years after finding that hair in the drain, I was genuinely happy for the first time in a long time. I'd started dating again, nothing serious yet, but I was open to the possibility. I'd gotten a promotion at work. My daughter was thriving in preschool, and my son was reading above grade level. Most importantly, I'd learned to trust myself again. I'd learned that my instincts were right when something felt wrong. It usually was. I'd learned that I was stronger than I'd ever imagined. And I'd learned that healing wasn't linear. Some days were still hard, but that progress was possible. One evening, I was putting my daughter to bed when she looked up at me with her big brown eyes and said, "Mommy, are you happy?" "Yes, baby," I said, surprised to realize I meant it completely. "I really am." "Good," she said, snuggling into her pillow. "I like when you smile." After I closed her door, I went to my own room and looked at myself in the bathroom mirror, the same bathroom where this whole nightmare had started. The hair was long gone. The evidence of betrayal had been cleaned away, but the lessons remained. I'd learned that secrets always surface, that lies eventually unravel, that betrayal leaves scars but doesn't have to define you, and that sometimes the worst moments of your life can become the foundation for your greatest growth. I thought about the woman I'd been 2 years ago, anxious, suspicious, heartbroken, feeling like her whole world was crumbling. And I thought about the woman I was now stronger, wiser, more self-assured, genuinely at peace. The journey between those two versions of myself hadn't been easy. It had been painful, exhausting, sometimes unbearable, but I'd made it. I'd survived the worst and come out better on the other side. That night, for the first time in 2 years, I didn't dream about finding hair in the drain. I didn't dream about Tom's betrayal or Diane's harassment or any of the trauma I'd endured. Instead, I dreamed about the future. My future! And in that dream, I was flying.